Hello everyone and welcome to Abundantly Minimal. My name is Sarah and I'm so excited to share today's video for day 17 of Minimal May. And this one is a travel video. I recently did a video about how to pack like a minimalist for a weekend trip. But one thing that I'm so passionate about and that doesn't seem as many people are talking about is how to actually travel like a minimalist. And again, there's probably many answers for this or many different ways that people think about this, but traveling like a minimalist I think is just as important as packing like one. So arguments for packing like a minimalist: it saves you time, money, energy. You don't have to worry about hauling this giant bag around, and that can be a really positive thing. But when we look at our itineraries of what we're doing during our trip, it's just as important to me to have a trip that is aligned with your values and that is something that truly gives you joy. Not trying to get the most epic pictures for your social media to look like you had this amazing trip, not trying to meet all of the requirements or goals in the guidebook or on TripAdvisor. It really should be authentic to what you care about, what you want out of your vacation. And that, I feel like, is what it's all about. It's all about knowing your travel style and what's going to make you happiest and not feel guilty about enjoying that and skipping different various sites and must-sees. And that also means, you know, not feeling guilty for the kind of trip that someone else is telling you to have. So that's, I think, the root of it. And I think it can be easiest just to see by example. So I'm gonna just break down our recent trip to St. Louis. So I guess if you wanna go to St. Louis, this could be helpful to you, but just to show you how we kind of schedule our trip and plan our trip from a minimalist perspective. So minimalist travel, I think, can be a lot of different things. It's kind of what I just mentioned, but also other factors you might want to keep in mind have to do with having the trip be as low stress as possible, and also affordability, I think, plays a role since travel can get really expensive. So those are some of the points I'll be hitting on, in addition to reflecting on what your true values are when you're traveling. So let's get started. I think the first thing is obviously to choose your destination. That's maybe easy for us. Maybe we have ideas where we wanted to travel for a long time. Think about where you want to go and why you wanted to go there. When you think about the root of why you want to go there, that will help you with your trip. And it could just be that you're generally curious about what it is. I know that's sometimes what it is for me, but if there's something you're super passionate about doing in that destination, then you should probably include it in your trip and center the trip around that so you'll have enough time to really enjoy and indulge in that experience. We were just kind of curious to go to St. Louis. We're actually moving away from this area and we're much closer to it now than we will be, so wanted to go. And I've only heard really positive things beforehand, and we overall had a really great experience. So once you've decided on your destination, then it gets time to think about what you want to do there, where you're going to stay, and maybe this is just me, maybe this isn't as big of a deal, but what you're going to eat, because I know I'm very food motivated. But anyway, so thinking about what you want to do. This is where you're welcome to consult your favorite travel guide or TripAdvisor, but it's important that you really reflect again on what you value and why you're on this trip, because you might find that the things that are top rated must-sees don't align with what you personally care about. And that's something to keep in mind. So for example, if you're not really into art and an art museum is the #1 thing, don't feel like you have to go just to go, because chances are that time could feel like it's wasted to you. You might be bored, you might be aimlessly wandering around this museum, and sometimes our museums can be pricey, or other museums too. So thinking about what you want. For us, we'd heard some really cool things about the City Museum, which was definitely a visit unlike any other. Sort of maze-like, very creative. It gives you a lot of like imagination and creativity from being there. And that was definitely kind of a wild experience, but it was really fun and we enjoyed our time there. So that was definitely something we were curious about. Also, we were curious to see the arch. Now sometimes when people go to certain places, they're like, oh, that's too touristy, we're not gonna do that. But be honest with yourself, if you actually want to do the thing, don't feel bad. Like, it's touristy for a reason, because a lot of people enjoy it. In some cases, I suppose, or in many cases. And we wanted to see the arch and we ended up going up into the arch. Now with that, again, was that an experience that was a little bit touristy? Maybe, but I know personally, I really always like getting aerial views. So if there's some sort of tower I can climb up, or if I can take some elevator or lift to the top of something, I will likely do it because I really enjoy seeing that aerial view. It's one of my favorite things when I'm traveling somewhere. You get a different view of the city and a different gist of things. So I was totally in, and it was really cool. And then as far as other details, we did end up going to an art museum, but it was more so part of the ambiance of where the World's Fair had been in Forest Park. And it was just kind of cool to be there. It was a free admission sort of thing, so, and we didn't spend a lot of time there, maybe about an hour, but it was nice. Finally, on our last day, we spent some time at the Missouri Botanical Garden, and I love nature-related things and being outdoors, so it was really beautiful and it was a perfect day. Ultimately, those were all things and activities that gave us a lot of value. Now, we only went to 3 to 4 main activities here, and for some, for a 2.5 day trip, that seems a little bit light. But we know our travel style and we don't want to push too much into days. I have gone on trips that I've loved where so much was packed into a day, but I've found that, like with Jake and I, sometimes it's just nice to have a more relaxing time and to not feel like you're go, go, go at all these different places. Now, let's talk about lodging. I think lodging, it can be really important, especially in terms of location. And when you're looking for a location, I think it's really important to, again, align the location you're choosing with what your values are. So, well, there's a lot of different locations. One thing to think about is, will this lodging location be very close to either where you are coming in from if you're flying in, let's say, to an airport or taking a train? Is it close to the attractions you'll be going to, or at least some of them? Is it close to restaurants you'll want to go to? I personally feel like transportation can be a huge headache. So if you can have your lodging be very close to something, it just adds a stress relieving element, I feel like. So in some places where we've been, let's say in Europe, when we were in Venice, Italy, our Airbnb that we were staying at was minutes of a walk away from the train station, which was so easy. I guess also in Italy, in Florence, Italy, we were right by this palace that we wanted to see, and it was a like 3-minute walk to get there. That felt so easy and nice. So keep that in mind. Well, sometimes there have been places we've stayed at where you want to stay there so bad, so it doesn't really matter if it's out of the way, but consider that and how that all balances into your plans. This time in St. Louis, we stayed at a really nice Airbnb apartment, and it was about a 6-minute walk away from 3 vegan restaurants, so I was sold, and the price was right. It was so convenient, and we were really appreciative about that. It wasn't necessarily close to as many of our attractions, but since I knew we'd be eating lunch and dinner all these days, and I guess brunch one of the days, it made it really easy that we could just walk there so quickly. So that was definitely a highlight and a huge plus. Also, lodging's a great way where you can think about what kind of price you want. While I'm not exclusive to Airbnb, I have found over time that Airbnb tends to be a bit more affordable than hotels, but it's all about doing the searches, and I think technically you could spend hours trying to find the perfect lodging, but some of the key figures I look into when I'm booking some sort of lodging: is the location good? Are there some positive reviews just to verify that it's a pretty good experience? And are the basic essentials that I need included? If these are, then I feel like it can be a win-win. And finally, from a food perspective, if you're trying to travel like a minimalist, I think it can be really fun to go out to a lot of fancy meals and enjoy that. But I think it's also important to know where you're at, what your food preferences or needs are, what your budget is. And these can be all things to think about together. For us, especially when we're traveling in the US, we often are trying to hit up all the best vegan restaurants. So that does shape what we're doing a little bit. But also, if you are fine with not going out to eat every meal, think about incorporating grocery store meals as well. Stop at a grocery store and find some fun items that you can be easily sharing, and that maybe also keep you a little bit more on track health-wise, so you're feeling your best. And again, it keeps costs way down sometimes based on expensive restaurant meals. I know, for instance, when we were in London a couple of years ago, we loved that the Airbnb, again, we were staying at, was actually part of a complex that had a co-op, a grocery store, like a co-op grocery store. And so we actually didn't really go out to eat that much in London at all for dinner, because we would just pop into the co-op, grab a few things, and prepare a light meal. That was really easy, and again, helped us save on costs. So this can be a really helpful tool if something you're interested in. I know we felt like we were not eating our best in St. Louis. The food was amazing, by the way, but not super healthy. I had some out of this world cupcakes. We had some delicious pizza first, Napoli, like Italy style pizza, as well as New York style pizza. I had a portobello gyro. We had brunch. I had chocolate chip banana pancakes, so I was eating like a queen. But as far as health-wise, not as healthy. So we even stopped into a Whole Foods to grab some green juice and some fruit and related things, in addition to just balance out our diet a little bit. So feel free to do that as a way to supplement maybe some of your poor food choices. Usually I eat a lot healthier than that, but again, how can you go 3 vegan restaurants? There's none around us where we live right now. So anyway, I digress, but try to incorporate foods that nourish you and make you feel really good, not just from the taste perspective. So those are my tips as far as how to go through, plan your trip more like a minimalist. Important things to remember: don't over plan, be realistic with yourself and think about what makes you happiest, what gives you the most value. And don't feel like you have to have a trip that's just like everyone else's or doing the iconic things. Those are my best tips, and if you want more details, I have done some travel related videos in the past too, and there will be some more to show some other destinations that we've been to. And also, if you're interested in more content, you can check out the links down below. I have a couple free guides available on my website. The first one is an 8-step guide towards a minimalist transformation, as well as a declutter challenge guide. So if you're interested in these things, I got the link to get those down below. Bye guys!